that was happening, and seeing the world through other people's eyes. I'm going to get emotional. It's heavy, and when you see so much despair, and when you see people take to the streets because they don't feel heard or understood or represented, it's heavy. It doesn't matter if I agree with them or not. Just as a fan of humanity, it was really heavy.
Forget about it. You can't trust this. It's all rigged. What would you say usually?
It's a cop-out. It's a cop-out, first of all. Just by saying that, you're contributing to the mess. The things that we speak come to reality. And so, and it's not about being naive. It's about, all right, well, if it is corrupt, then how do I participate in a way that makes it less corrupt? I'm going to do my job as a voter. I'm going to go out and register my vote. I'm going to vote.
I like that.
So why not do that?
Well, we've got a special announcement for our listeners. Yeah, that I am running for city council in Happy Valley.
That's awesome.
Huge Russian community there.
Yes.
I think we got to have a voice in the city, and I hope I get your guys' support.
Yeah. Well, I've been waiting. Bill, thank you for being here today. I appreciate you coming on. Yaroslav is not with us today, so you brought a guest with us.
I sure did.
You sure
so
did.
Like Dimitri said, I'm Bill Krasnogrov, and
Yes.
I'm really happy to be part of this program again.
Right. You've been with us a few times already.
I have been. Yeah, I've been tallying it off my...
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And we might make an announcement later today.
We
about
will.
Something
We got a
very
special
interesting.
announcement for our dear listeners. Yeah.
That's right. So, but go ahead, do us a favor and introduce your guest. And you've met him, you said, a few years back, right?
Well, it's been quite a while. I'm not going to nail down to the exact date, but we've seen Eric around a lot in Happy Valley. And he's just a wonderful community leader.
Thank you.
Even though I don't think he carries any position that's in the city, but he's been an activist. He's been a producer, and we'd love to hear more from him. And he interacts with the Slavic community. I don't know if it's on a daily basis, but we see him around quite often. So pick his brain a little bit. Maybe even get some feedback.
Well, let's do it. I'm glad to be here, you guys.
Awesome,
Yeah.
awesome. Well, share us a little bit about yourself, where you come from, and we just briefly talked a little bit about it, and you have a very interesting story. So I think our listeners would love to hear that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I grew up in Portland area. I was born in Walla Walla, and then like we talked a little bit, when my mother and father decided to go their separate ways. I didn't see my dad for a really long time, and I was adopted, and found my home in Happy Valley. We moved to Milwaukee and kind of moved up the hill. You know what I mean? About 20 years ago. I've got 2 kids. I've grown up in the system. The word activist is an interesting title. I don't wear that title at all, but it does get applied, and because I think that all of us are activists. I think that people that say that they don't do politics, well, if you don't do politics, politics will do you.
Yeah.
So you really need to be active in some way. If you care about your community, if you care about your neighbors, if you care about your children or the children of your neighbors, then being active is a very important thing to do. So, and as a business owner, it's always been part of the model is to give back and to provide opportunities for employees or to the people that need a little bit of support, holidays or any other days. And so activist is a weird word for me, but I don't wear that title, but I definitely think everybody should be active.
It definitely sticks.
Yeah. I have a lot of energy, so I like to do a lot of things. Yeah.
Well, you mentioned, I think earlier you mentioned you have family. Go ahead and introduce your family really quick.
Yeah, absolutely. So, with Jenny, my wife, and I, we're live in the Valley, and I've got 2 great kids that go to the new Nelson High School, and it's been fun to kind of bring forth a new program in a new school and be a part of that team 1 of every sport so far. And my son's running track, and I was like, man, if you do pole vaulting, you'll have the school record because nobody's done it yet. He's like, okay, I'll do that. So he, just tried pole vaulting, something new. So being a part of that community and just watching it grow, in the last 20 years, as a builder, and, I've used to own some real estate companies and mortgage companies. And so we were part of a lot of that growth, and part of that growth is being responsible and how do you grow? And not just from the systems and the utilities, but how do you go culturally? What's the appropriate way for everyone to grow together and welcome your new neighbors and family members? So that was part of the challenge, is really having those discussions, not just the utilities and what's the housing design. And I designed quite a few of the neighborhoods and subdivisions, but it was more about who's going to live there, and then how do we treat each other. So that's what I was focused on a lot too.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, you were very busy with real estate, and have you been always active in politics, or has it been just a few last years curious on what got you involved in politics.
It's interesting because I never had an interest in politics itself. It was more about just how does a community work, how does it thrive, and how does a business community interact with the government entity, let's just say. And then it was in 2017, after President Trump was elected, where we had a big riot downtown, and I shot a viral video talking about the flag burning and what happened. And I was given a platform. A lot of people liked what I had to say, so I started making the rounds, and I appeared in every state, all 50 states on news, or I was in Maxing Magazine and all sorts of different magazines talking about how do we interact with such a melting pot, diverse group of people. And so on social media, I've reached hundreds of millions of people now on social media. And as a result of that, from podcasts to doing appearances in different places. So last time I checked, it was over 500 million people I've touched on social media. Yeah,
that's awesome. What was the? I guess you mentioned the riots, but was there something specific that kind of triggered you to really kind of get more involved that way?
So what happened that day when all the flags were being burnt, and I served this country as a Marine, straight out of high school. And
thank you for your service, by the way.
Yeah, of course. Protesting is an American right. Having your voice, is an American right. Having it heard. But at the same time, let's be careful about what we're doing to our neighbors when we do use our voices. So I was trying to be a steward of how do these two communities, one that was upset with our country and one was proud of our country, how do we interact with each other? So I started having a message of using the flag as that symbol of some sort of respect, and instead of being worried about is flag burning right or wrong, how do we create a country where nobody wants to burn a flag? That was my focus, and it was very effective, and reached a lot of people that way. And then since then, I just become better at kind of crafting a message that doesn't galvanize people, that doesn't just make people say, yes, I agree with you, or no, I don't agree with you, but more of, I never thought about it that way, tell me more. And so get people to just pause their normal stories, their normal ways of thinking, to say, oh, okay, let me see if I can think about this a new way. So that's what I've been working on over the last few years, for sure.
Right. Well, we both been kind of involved currently, especially right now. We obviously have elections coming up. Yeah. And just before we started, I briefly talked about that in the Russian language. Yeah. But if you're listening and if you don't know that there's election that happens every year, in fact, multiple times a year, it's important to be involved in those local elections. Were you always involved in local elections or voting in every election, or?
I think when you have a visible spot in a community, as a community leader, however you want to word that, or a business leader, or a thought leader, whatever word you want to use, you have a sense of responsibility to kind of tie those two communities together. So, for instance, I've been working with some of the campaigns for the gubernatorial candidates for this year, been helping with the messaging and marketing, and just how do they communicate, and just strategizing a little bit with three that I've really enjoyed talking to, and in some other positions too. I heard you guys talking about Lori. Obviously, Lori and I are friends. In fact, I think we're going to go to have some coffee, this week.
Awesome.
So that's really, if I'm going to say I have a gift, it's that. It's the ways of not being put in a box and put in a label and then just be satisfied with that. You know what I mean? Especially when it becomes toxic. When it's like my team, your team, and then everybody wants to fight. I'm like, hold on, this is all one country. This is all one community. This is one state. So, and it's not just because it feels warm and fuzzy, because it's very practical. It's very pragmatic. It's very peaceful, right? People can be more prosperous and happy when we're not fighting each other, right? So, I enjoy that very much.
Right.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of controversy out there. And the quick discussion we had before this, I mentioned that, it's hard for us to relate with some of these accusations of the system that failed.
Yeah.
We came here from a system that literally failed us.
Yeah.
And we found that this system could actually make you be prosperous.
Yeah.
So how do you relate that with what's going on in downtown? And I mean, you've lived through the system.
Yeah.
I mean, call it what you want,
Yep.
And if you could share a little bit on that, I think that'll be
helpful. I've had the fortune to travel much of the world. I've been in Lithuania. When I was in the Marines, I was in Lithuania a little bit, and traveled in Africa and lots of places, and this country as well. And so when I'm there, I try and really study. And history doesn't repeat itself, people do, right? And so one of my challenges to myself is how do I understand myself better, then therefore I can understand those around me, that even if they don't vote like me or pray like me or think like me, I can still understand them at the basic level. So I've really enjoyed that. And when I look at the history, I'm looking for clues to it's going to predict what's going to happen. And it's not hard to see what's happening.
Exactly, yeah.
It truly is not. And it's not because I'm smart. It's because I just pay attention. And patterns, all you have to do to see a pattern is just look for them. And we're just seeing a pattern of it's happened in other civilizations, it's happened in other societies. And I think my role as a leader of my family and as a leader of the community, then I want to do my best to slow that down.
Yeah.
You know, one person can do a lot. I don't believe in this whole thing of I'm just going to sit back and wait for them to do something. It's like when you look in the mirror, you are them. You are the
part of the
activist
reason
change.
why we're here.
Yeah, right.
Because we kind of counted on the other guy a little more.
Right.
True, absolutely, yeah.
Well, the event that we just had, you had a conversation with someone that was one of the speakers, one of the candidates.
Correct.
Do you mind sharing that? I thought that was very powerful.
Yeah, so we had one of the candidates that mentioned that, there's a system that failed. Elena, AJ, she's running for city council.
Position 2, I believe.
I believe that's what it is, yeah. And, and she threw a couple terms out there that is hard for the Slavic community to grasp because we do see this country as a prosperous country. We came from a spot where you wouldn't see butter on the shelves for months at a time. And then you come here. My mom had a hard time kind of accepting the fact that there's such an abundance of food. She'd show up to the grocery store and just cry. Mm-hmm. And just because there's so much out here and this country is so blessed and it's got so many opportunities that you could actually go and get a job. You can, if you have a hard time getting a job, someone will help you. Somebody will give you housing and the ability to take care of your family as you're working towards sustaining yourself, basically, and your family. So that's definitely a conversation we had, and I couldn't get a good answer from that. Is that some people do view this system as a system that's failing us, but in reality, there's so much people that prosper from it.
Factually, she's incredibly and wildly inaccurate. There's never been a system that has provided more prosperity than the one that we're in right now. Now, I'm not an apologist of the imperfections of this country or of our history.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And nobody is. But I like to say that because I think that you can get deemed as a blind, follower of something, right? That's not how I work. I work at overall. Are most people prosperous? Yes or no? Okay, that's a good start, right? Mm-hmm. And what do you do with that prosperity? Are you good for your neighbors? Are you good for other countries? Do you protect? Do you provide? There's been no other countries that provide more humanitarian aid, more anything, right? So that's just a fact. That's not my opinion. And so these are very easy things to look at and say, okay, yes, we have some work we need to do, but let's not ignore all the really good things, because then if you throw the baby out with the bathwater, you're going to stop doing the things that are really good too.
Yeah. Yeah, and I want to be clear. We we had great conversations with her as well, AJ, and a few others that came that maybe we didn't completely align with our values, but we appreciated them coming. And they're one of the few folks that we don't agree all the way. They actually showed up and actually had a conversation with us. So I just wanted to give them credit for coming.
Yeah. And we definitely appreciate the conversation and. Just being able to get on a platform and speak our minds.
Great.
Right, because
I think that's definitely a starting point.
Because for a while, since we started, actually today marks a 3-year anniversary of our organization. Wow. And
congrats.
Slavic Vote.
Congrats.
And we've we reached out to the other side. Let's just say it that way, and we've almost never been recognized. We never wanted, the other side never wanted to have a conversation with us and hear our issues, our values. And so I do appreciate when those folks do come out and talk to us. So definitely thanks to them. Well, you mentioned a little bit about the governors that you had conversation. Your more recent projects, and we've had one of those candidates on with us, and I've met most of them as well. And talk about your experience about some of them, and how important is this election than any maybe other elections that we had so far?
I think it's really easy to say that almost every election is so important, but as I look at things the way they are through my lens, this is the tipping point.
Yeah,
we truly have got. Just if you do look at history again, if I'm a student of history, if you go too far to the left, you generally get chaos for too long. You go too far to the right, you generally get tyranny for too long, right? That's just how history has shown us what happens. Portland is an example of too far left for too long. We have chaos. Mm-hmm. When you have a lawlessness, when you have a drug and mental health issue, when you have businesses leaving in droves, when you have people leaving the city in droves, when you have graffiti and our public school system is in shambles, that's chaos to me. Mm-hmm. So what we're seeing is a compounding effect of just one party rule. So I think that any party that wants to have power for too long is toxic. The best governance comes from a balance of ideals. and those challenges of each other's, right? And the balance of, especially if we don't want a homogenous society, if we really do want diversity, then we better have diversity of thought. It's not just how we look. Yeah. So I really think that that's just a lost art. Everybody is this all or nothing, wham, bam, and we've lost the art of nuance, right? And so it's the art of conversation that I don't want to say that you just sit down and talk it out, but you let your ideal be challenged.
Yeah.
You don't take identity and possession of your ideas. You just hold it out here. It's like, okay, let's look at this thing all around. If it's great, I'm going to keep it. If not, I'm going to get rid of it and adopt a new one. Mm-hmm. People have too much egos attached to their ideas, and therefore they're afraid to really be challenged. And I don't have any ego attached to my ideas. Like, if you give me a better idea, I'm going to lose mine and take yours. No problem.
Well, I would love to. Could you share an example of maybe something that you changed your mind on specifically?
Yeah, wildly. I mean, one of my projects, if we want to talk about it, is a documentary project I've been working on. And
I definitely want to hear more about it.
Yeah, okay. Well, we can talk about that. You know, that's been a wild part of it changed me as a human being. For sure. To my core, that project's changed me as a human being. Is because when you go and you really get off your couch, so to be specific what it is, it's called Revelations in Tear Gas, and it is a project where we were interested in finding out what happened during the riots of 2020, 2021, when the George Floyd riots. It's not out yet. We're still in production with that project right now. It should have been out right now if I wanted to make a piece that was almost like anything else out there. But I'm not willing to contribute to the noise. This will be part of my life's work that I'm very proud of, and it will be a statement that I want to be worthy of people watching it and have everybody say, wow, I had no idea.
Yeah.
Is there a link or a trailer that they can watch?
You can actually go to revelationsinteargas.com.
Okay, we'll try to.
There's a trailer there.
We'll try to put a link in descriptions for you.
Yeah, you can see it, and the trailer is just setting up kind of some of the questions we're trying to answer. But really, you know, we were at over 200 riots and protests across the country. So, you know, obviously in Portland quite a bit. That was the epicenter. That's where we started. And we realized how deep the story was. It wasn't just about police brutality or George Floyd or racial injustice. It really became about the fallibility of mankind and how we're just not good at treating each other very well at times. Mm-hmm. And so we found ourselves in Seattle and LA and Kenosha, Minnesota. I was in DC a few times, New York, New Jersey, all over. And so I got a really good chance to talk to the heads of all of the far left movements and all of the far right movements. And when I say talk to them, not quickly, hours upon hours upon hours, really diving into what was going on. And then I said, all right, well, let's go talk to the homeless that are affected. Let's talk to the billionaire politicians. Let's talk to the business owners. Let's talk to the landlords. Let's talk to everybody, the chiefs of police. What about the spouses of police? Yes, we could talk to all of them. How about the children of police officers? Yes. How about? So we really researched and dug into the human experience that was happening and seeing the world through other people's eyes. I'm going to get emotional. It's heavy. You know, and when you see so much despair and when you see people take to the streets because they don't feel heard or understood or represented, it's heavy. It doesn't matter if I agree with them or not. You know, just as a fan of humanity, it was really heavy. So night after night after night, seeing this sort of violence and just hatred towards each other was tough. And I was there as a role observer. I was not there as a participant. We were observing and we were filming and we were researching. There was only a few times we got involved when the violence really escalated. We had to try to save somebody, you know, in a case. We were shot at and stabbed and hit with pepper balls. And I would go there with, armored vest, bulletproof vest and gas mask and the whole thing. And but we didn't care about our personal safety because the mission was so important to understand what was going on, and it just changed me, the man.
Yeah. No, I get a little bit of that because I did have some experience going to these protests, and it was definitely a very unique experience. So you mentioned that changed you completely in many ways. Can you share a little more about that? What exactly was that change?
I was naive. I was naive to think that, you know, all Americans were my friends.
Wow.
Just in general.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Didn't matter if we agreed or not. We were all one team. Come to find out we're not. You know, and so when I served as a Marine, it was easy to picture a foreign enemy. That's really easy. Look different uniforms, everything else. But all of a sudden, they're in your same town, and they literally wanted to take down and tear apart the fabric of the United States, and they're an American. It was just a wild mind trip. I would come home and just wrestle with this idea. How are these people so angry and mad? Do they not understand history? Do they not understand? Have they ever traveled? Have they ever seen any part of the country? Do they not realize how good they actually could make it? Maybe they don't have it good now, but could it be? And instead of complaining about it, they just got, burning cities and getting violence. So it changed me. What changed me was kind of the concept of almost, I will say, an enemy within.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So part of the discussion here, and I think that's a perfect intro to it, is how does the Slavic community fall into play?
Oh.
Or how does it not fall into play? And from observing all this, what can you share about the Slavic community's involvement or non-involvement?
Well, I learned a little about your story, and I've learned about a lot of, had some people that would come crying to me, hey, I came from country, fill in the blank. I cannot believe somebody isn't just wildly happy to live here and have an opportunity to live here. We need to tell everybody where it was like where I came from. And that's what I would like to request of the Slavic community is if you know what it's like to not have some of those freedoms, to be under just the heavy rule of thumb of government in the communist government. I mean, I don't want to get too deep, but to share those stories of not having butter, of not having bread, of not being able to send your kid to school, of not being able to pray how you want to, of all the things that you're under persecution, to share, to get that message out.
Yeah.
I mean, and to vote appropriately, by the way. If anybody's out there and you're not voting, but yet you came from another country because you wanted the opportunity and you're not voting, I see a problem with that. So I would definitely encourage everybody, when it's time, you put your feet and your hands to work, not just your voice, and you get out there and you vote and you tell other people what to do.
And just a reminder again, the election is literally around the corner.
Absolutely.
And we're talking about the primary election that's going to lead up to the general election. And I would argue this primary election is arguably more important than the general because I always say this all the time. When we open up our ballots and we see mediocre candidates, we always complain, and some people don't vote. Yep. And they don't realize that all the best candidates perhaps were in that primary election that's just around the corner, and they missed out the opportunity to vote for those good candidates. And that's unfortunately, they just miss out, and they go do something else, and those good candidates never get to the general election.
Let's be honest, there is no such thing as a perfect candidate.
Yeah.
I do have many complaints about the candidates that I actually really enjoy as a human being. I enjoy interacting with them. I enjoy them as a person and as a member of the community, and as a candidate, they're very imperfect in my opinion. But I'm also not running. Right. So I can't sit back and just complain about the work I'm not doing either. So, but still, that's better than nothing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's not even just being subservient to it. That's being very, very real. There's no such thing as somebody's going to emulate you perfectly.
Yeah.
But the primary is important right now, and if there's a lot of unaffiliated or independent voters, maybe changing your registration so you could vote in a primary for one of the parties that you believe in would be a really great idea.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's we've been talking about that in the last few years, few weeks, even a few months as well. That if you're not registered correctly, I just use that word correctly because I feel like
check it, by the way.
Exactly, because I feel like at this point it's if you're not registered with a party, unfortunately it's not the correct registration. That's a simple, because I feel like there's a specific reason for why we have this non-affiliated, and I feel like it only hurts us when people are registered as non-affiliated.
By the way, I just went and checked mine. I was registered as non-affiliated.
Really?
Which should not have been, by the way.
Yeah, and that happens.
It happens. So
you have an interesting story.
So yeah, definitely, and we hear this from the Slavic community a lot, to where it's either human error, maybe intentional. But I would say, we don't have statistics, but about half of the people that do register with a party end up being non-affiliate.
It's crazy.
And they got to go back. So go on to the Secretary of State website, put in your credentials, and double check your status.
Well, you have a personal experience.
I've got a personal experience and some close friends of mine to where I've been voting for... Well, I'm actually a perfect, terrible example of a Slavic person.
This.
Okay. And I gotta say this because I think there's a lot of people like me.
Yeah.
And without doubt, there's a lot of people like me, to where I voted for the first time in 2021.
There you go.
First time. Been in America since 1989. After Donald Trump election, my wife actually forced me to register, so if she's listening, kudos. Marina, job. Thank you for doing that. But what happens is we would register, I've had ballots, and then all of a sudden I go on to the Secretary of State website and show somebody at one of our drives how they need to go on and check their status. And it turns out that the Secretary of State website has no record of me ever being registered.
Crazy.
And we just, in our group, right? I share this in our group, and we all start sharing, and all of a sudden there's a handful of people that have the exact same thing, to where it doesn't say you're inactive.
Right.
You were never registered.
Just period, gone, ghost.
And it's kind of hurtful. I understand there's that human error. There's that, ability, it could be a computer error. Who knows? But that many people, you always raise the question.
But that only comes to light when people are shining light on it by doing the work and going and voting and checking on it.
Exactly.
So it is a very imperfect world, and there are people with bad intentions. Let's be honest about it.
And that's definitely an aspect that we are trying to point out, is that, hey, we've got the ability to go ahead and double check.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and take that minute.
This isn't about some conspiracy that people are out to get us. It's just about the fact that darkness can only exist when nobody shines a light on it. And if you're not active, the darkness is going to grow. Yeah. It's just really that simple. It isn't even blaming anybody else. We just have to keep shining lights in the dark.
Exactly. Well, and that happened really after the Trump election, where there was already a lot of just confusion and what's going on, and that didn't help our messaging, because we kept on saying the elections matter and the elections are accurate. You can trust elections in America, and then that happened. That definitely didn't help.
It backfired a little bit to where.
Right. Well, and speaking of messaging, and you talk about messaging and something you help, and something that we always have to constantly remind our community, that you still can trust elections. They're better elections. They're more trustworthy than the Soviet Union, and especially the local elections. How do you answer that question when you have somebody say, forget about it, you can't trust this, it's all rigged? What would you say usually?
It's a cop-out. It's a cop-out, first of all. Just by saying that, you're contributing to the mess. Yeah. Truly. And I don't say that to be, make anybody feel bad, but that's the truth. The things that we speak come to reality. And so, and it's not about being naive. It's about, all right, well, if it is corrupt, then how do I participate in a way that makes it less corrupt? I'm going to do my job as a voter. I'm going to go out and register my vote. I'm going to vote.
I like that.
So why not do that?
I like that.
So I had pickles for lunch.
Nice.
And you know how America is referred to a melting pot?
Yep.
So for some reason, the Slavic community has been more like a pickle jar.
Okay.
And
I can't wait for this.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
No, we were so,
pickles.
and this got great benefits as well, to where we were so tight in our community.
Oh.
We didn't look over the fence and see how the neighbor is doing.
Yeah.
We were kind of worried about keeping our culture, keeping our traditions, and just staying out of everybody's way. And I actually don't blame kind of my parents and everybody around the community for doing that, because we came from a country that, if they found out you were having a church meeting at your house, you'd have cops at your door.
Yeah.
And then, a quarter of your salary would be gone.
Right.
And my dad's went through that. And here, what do you got to say about the Slavic community just being so tight-knit and closed up?
Yeah, well, there's something very romantic about that. I'm a family guy. I mean, there's something about like keeping your friends and your family very close and protecting, and I absolutely appreciate that. The challenge is you also have to assimilate into the place that you're in. And when you leave a place to come to a new place, assimilation is very important. It's good for both. It's good for both communities to learn from each other. And so, staying as tight-knit, I don't think is doing this country any service, by the way. I think that those family values are very important. I think that having, watching out for each other, that spirit of watching out for each other is very important in a very, very selfish world, let's just say, not just here, but in general. So I think that this country would be better off if that sort of example was being, just more public.
Yeah.
And so I would, I mean, that's that isolation thing is a double-edged sword. I can understand it, but I would encourage people to please share and to meet people that don't look, sound, and speak just like you.
Yeah.
Well, and I always, when I get an opportunity to speak in front of the Slavic community, I always say how important our voice is right now. It's just so relevant right now, what's going on, and we briefly touched on it. Our parents went through that. We grew up listening to these stories, and we know that what's coming to this country is not. This is something we ran from. Our communities, we're both refugees in our families.
It's definitely a deja vu moment.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, and before we continue, I want to take a quick break. I want to take a moment to thank all of our sponsors for allowing us to be here on this program and all of our future programs. Some of those sponsors are Pelmeni, Nina Martina Real Estate Broker, America's Best Realty, Exceptional Homes, Dream House Construction, Imperial Cabinets, Solution 8020, Gold Cup Coffee House, Red Hills Construction, Ciberoni, Lanos Floral, Third House Media, and some others. Without these companies, without these organizations, we couldn't be on this program. And if you would like to be our next sponsor, reach out to us by visiting SlavicVote.org. We would love to partner with you and further our mission. Thank you very much. Do also great work, and in fact, half of our sponsors, I would say, are also our board members.
Wow.
And just a quick question for Bill: what made you want to be a sponsor, and would you encourage other business owners in the community to also get involved that way?
Absolutely. I think it's not. I don't look at it as a donation per se. I just see a job that needs to be done, and I can't do it myself. So I'm contributing towards that job that I need done. So it's not really, and you know, the people that go out there, and I completely understand, you know, the campaign drives to where a lot of times it's not really about the money. Some of these people are wealthy enough to go ahead and pay for their own campaign. Some can't. But it's the community support. You know, a lot of these people that may even have the extra bucks in their bank account, but they have the ability to go and say and do what I can't.
Right.
So I think it's very important to find people like that and give them our support and give them our contribution, because you're not doing that because they're needy. You're doing that because they're doing what you are supposed to do. So that's part of Slavic Vote. I found out that I can't do it myself. I know Dima and I, before we started, we had many conversations, and we both said we got to wake up the Slavic community. And we're at a position to where, okay, so we're starting to wake up. What do we do now? Like, Eric, you've been a motivation speaker to teens, kids, right? But maybe something you don't really realize, but you're a motivator for people like us. Great. Because I see you around on like community events, 4th of July parade. You've been out there and you care, you know, you're always leading a position to where you're willing and ready to participate. And I think that's all we need to do. We don't have to be special and super capable, just willing and able to contribute.
I think, and by the way, I love the way you worded that about the donation. That was really well done. And that's the thing. I'm not super capable. I'm very passionate. And I think passion is something that people are really attracted to. Yeah. You know, if it's grounded in something good, right? People can be wildly passionate about things that don't really matter. I'm talking about passionate about things that are bigger than you. Yeah. And when you're passionate about things bigger than you, that's a very attractive thing that people want to rally around. So that's why an organization like this exists. And that's why, like the 4th of July parade, I mean, when we took it on, there was like 200 people. I think the last time there was 8,000 or 9,000 or something.
I didn't
crazy
know what it
more.
was the first time I moved into town. There was a couple fire trucks going through, but now.
Yeah, it was thousands. And for 15 years I ran that. And it was just one of those things. It was like, if we just do it with so much intent. And the intent was for everybody to show up and smile and get to know each other and have a great time and celebrate the 4th of July, which is one of my favorite holidays anyways. And it's in the summertime and all these things that it just takes the rest of the stress of the world can melt away for a moment. We can enjoy each other. How beautiful is that? Yeah. Right.
It's super beautiful. Exactly. I've been recognizing some faces in that parade that weren't from Happy Valley.
Oh, of course.
So we're doing something right.
Absolutely. It was a fun time.
I enjoy it once in a while when I do get a chance to get out there.
Yeah, so absolutely.
Thank you for organizing that.
Yeah, and now it's passed on. I've sold that company. It's passed on, and they're going to keep it going.
Awesome. Well, just to finish kind of my little sponsor plug, thank you, Bill, for not only being a sponsor, but also actually putting in some effort as well. So if you're listening to this and you're considering it, you can simply just reach out to us. We made it very easy just on our website, SlavicVote.org. You just really simply just go on that website. There's a tab for how to be a sponsor, and you just leave your information, and one of us will reach out and connect with you. And this year is very big. We're bringing more sponsors in, and it helps us and helps. Hopefully, we can be also a blessing for you in return with our promotions and things like that. So. You mentioned the passion. You mentioned how important to have that good passion. What gives you passion? Because there has to be a reason. There has to be a root cause.
There's got to be a fuel source somewhere.
Yeah. What's the alternative?
Right.
What's the alternative?
Yeah.
I mean, life isn't just experiences. Life is our emotions. That's how we experience our life, is the emotions that we have, good or bad or otherwise. That's how you have such vivid memories about something in the past, is because you got high emotion attached to it. So if I can find deep emotion with things and be very curious about things and be very excited about things, then of course you're going to find the energy even when it's hard or you lose your motivation. To me, it's not about motivation or discipline. It's about that quest to really live and really live fully. And as a dad, I've got 2 children. Part of my job is to show them a path, not what to do, but how, when things get really crazy and chaotic, how do you find yourself in your center and then infect each other in a positive way? And that's by being emotionally passionate about who you are and who you can be, right? So it's nothing external. Yes, of course, you can look back to your childhood and you can look to things. And, of course, I was poor for a while, and then you find motivation in those things. It's not even about those. I think those are just excuses. Because you can be passionate with or without money. You can be passionate with a tragic past or a green past, right?
Yeah.
So it's about right now. What's your story that you're telling yourself right now? Who cares about what happened? So for me, when I wake up, I'm like, what am I going to be passionate about today? And where am I going to find a place to put that passion that's going to do something good?
I love that. Well, you mentioned you have kids, right? And
yeah.
I know Bill has kids. And one thing that we always hear, I think one of the hot topics lately in the last 2 years, is the whole critical race theory.
Oh.
And you both have kids. You have both children that are in school. If you can both share, how did that affected you guys, or just in general your thoughts on the whole thing? And
you can go first. I can talk about this for 5 hours.
I'm going to pass it on to Eric because I haven't really dug into it too much. I've heard that it does. Again, back to what I said originally, is that we come from an oppressed society. We come from a system that truly does fail the average citizen.
Factually,
right? Yeah. And we've got a ton of documentation and facts that support that. And when we look at the system here, this is a system that prevailed. This is a system that gave us opportunity. This is where we realized what the American dream is all about. I've shared this at a different event, but when we were fleeing the Soviet Union, the propaganda said that you'll be going to this nation and you'll be working as slaves on fields, and you'll never have freedom. But the only thing that we knew for sure is that there's freedom of religion, so we could practice our faith. And that was the one thing that drove my parents to leave their motherland and come here. When we came here, we realized we were lied to. We're not slaves. We're not working the fields. And even though I picked berries, but I did it willingly, like we talked about our growing up.
Yeah, I did too. We had the same history, by the way.
We kind of grew up and through the same steps to where make pretty good money before school and pick some berries. But this is truly a land of opportunity, and I don't see that my background had anything to do systemically to affect the outcome.
Well, you mentioned the whole slavery thing. I feel like the mentality that comes out of the schools sometimes is almost like, for lack of a better word, a slave mentality, in the sense that you're oppressed and you're gonna fail. So it's definitely a very disheartening way to go. But share your thoughts on that.
Yeah, here's the thing. Again, I try not to form an opinion unless I've done the work to form the opinion based on it.
Right.
I don't just carry an opinion because it's convenient and it sounds good and I can fit in with other people who have the same opinion. I don't care about that. I want to know what is actually happening, and I'm not looking for what I agree or disagree with. I'm looking for the results that I think need to happen. So, for example, when we look at Oregon, we're 46th, out of 50, in our public school ranking, right? It's atrocious, right? We have one of the worst graduation rates, and that's why she had to. When I say she, Governor Kate Brown had to remove the reading, writing, and graduation, from the standards. What happened when I was trying to understand what's going on here, and this is how to answer your question about critical race theory. Basically, it's through the lens. Everything is viewed through the lens of oppressed and oppressor. Like every victim or victor. I'm sorry. All topics, not just history about slavery, but math, reading, everything started. The school system started looking at the lens through that. This is when the leftist sort of way of viewing the world started infusing it. Okay,
such a sad view.
And I don't. It's just an observation of mine. And what happens is then you end up giving kids no agency, no hope. Hope is that's what your parents That's what brought your parents here, hope.
Mm-hmm.
Hope. When you start taking away from kids, why would they want to go to school? Why would they want to participate in community? Why would they want to learn and grow? And you're removing hope when you say you're a victim, you're a victor. No matter what you do, you have two people come out of the womb, you're two different colors, one owes the other one automatically. That's a problem, right? Yeah. There's no society that has any sort of community when you start doing that to kids. So that's essentially, I've read all the works of Ibram Kendi, I've read all the works of D'Angelo, I've read all the works, I debated Kamau Bell from CNN for a show, Shades of America on CNN and Amazon. Debated him for 3 hours on this topic, okay? In the middle of downtown, in the middle of the chaos downtown, Ted Turner set up their whole 25 camera crew and we had a debate. They couldn't even put me in the show, but it couldn't turn me into the person they wanted me to be. Okay, he couldn't twist my words and all that kind of stuff because I've read all the work more than he even did to understand the way they're thinking. It's not okay to teach kids, no matter what you do, you're a victim. No matter what you do, you're a victor. That is the most anti-American message you can possibly deliver to somebody. And when I was attending these Black Lives Matter rallies, and I go up and say, all right, these stories I'm hearing are atrocious, and they're true. I mean, really bad stories of racism and stuff that I didn't want to hear. I said, but isn't it true that also people that look just like you have also had incredible success? Where are they? Mm-hmm. Why can't you give them the microphone on the stage too and say, you know what, despite the fact that these things are real, I also was able to achieve, and here's what I did to achieve. Why do we only got to hear about the bad side? So it's just an unfair representation of actually what's happening. That's what critical race theory actually is. It's just an unfair representation. It's only a partial truth, but it's not the whole truth. Exactly. So if you're going to teach the kids a truth, you better show them both sides.
Right. Well, and we had a few guests on with us previously, and we talked about how that mentality has essentially taken over the education system in Oregon and other states. And you still have your kids in high school, right?
I do, but let's say that was infused in the system, and we were number one. I'd be like, well, maybe I'm wrong because but we're 46 and we're spiraling faster and faster, and the graduation is going lower and lower. Yeah. So I can't say keep doing more of what we're doing.
Right. Yeah. If you would you parents, the parents that still have their kids in school and they're considering taking out their kids, maybe younger kids, do you support that, or you feel like leaving the kids in school system is still a better way to go?
I do see a trend, an unfortunate trend of parents kind of handing their kids off to the system, and they expect the school to handle a whole bunch of things. That's just not something that I'm willing to do. So I'm willing to place my kids in public school because I'm also willing to tell them the other side of the story. And I view the school system as we're not co-parenting.
Yeah.
We're co-educating. So I don't hand my kids off to the school system to be parented. And I have seen that done by parents. And then of course their kids come home with ideas and then they have a problem like, what are my kids thinking this way? Well, it's because you haven't sat down and had a conversation with kids at dinner, in weeks and months. So I just go back to the family unit is incredibly important with all of these topics. But I am a fan of public school because I do think it arms your kids of dealing with the real world.
Right.
But that's just my personal opinion. I will say though, if my kids were younger, I'd have second thoughts.
Wow.
But right now, the way it's going, and like today, my daughter's texting me from class and she's saying, here's what podcasts we're listening to and here's what they're saying. Here's what we're talking about, race bias and whatnot in the psychology class. And she's texting me, she goes, what do you think? So I sent her back a few things. She's like, okay, that's great. So even during the day when she's in school, we're communicating.
I love that.
It's beautiful, right? Yeah. So that's why I don't have a problem with it. And I think it's good that she gets this diverse, because I'm a fan of diversity of thought. So I would be a hypocrite if I didn't do this.
Yeah. I actually connected with my 16-year-old more because he took some sort of political class and going over current events, and all they hear is the leftist material. And he's like, "Hey, Dad, help me out here. Why doesn't this work? Why doesn't the public health doesn't work?" And we start bringing in examples of where we're from. Why don't people like the free healthcare in Russia? And how come it's better to send it to an open market and have the market decide? And letting the community kind of do the things, but setting a lot of these boundaries is really hurting not only the economy, I think it's hurting the costs. And I'm on the development side and the building side by trade. And looking at the system, I see that there's so much waste when we're talking about lack of homes in the Portland area. We're looking at house affordability, and yet we're charging $60,000 for a set of permits before you could even put a shovel in the ground.
Right.
And, all these things kind of open up to say maybe there's too much control.
Yeah. People don't generally react when the government is small.
Yeah.
People don't come to the streets when they feel, unless the government's reaching in their pockets and in their lives and in their churches. That's when people have had enough, right? But of course, that's what's going to happen unless, again, like I go back to my earlier statement, if you start showing the light, or you start standing up like, no, that's as far as it goes. Like, you can still do that thing, but you can't go any farther. You're not coming into my home anymore. You're not coming to my business anymore. Not coming to my community anymore. But it takes that sort of commitment. And it takes that sort of fortitude. And I do think that's a little bit lacking because there's a feeling of needing to fit in. I don't care about fitting in. It's not because I'm thinking above it. It's just because I know what normal is broken.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So why would I participate in anything normal?
Yeah. Right. Well, Jordan Peterson, I think most of us know who that is. He gave it a great example.
I was just in San Francisco and watched the show last week.
Awesome.
Yeah.
He gave it a great example, kind of to what you just said. The government comes in, they tries to take some of their rights, and you tell them to stop, and they stop. And then they stop for a minute, and then they try to go again. And they keep pushing back. So unless you stay vigilant, and unless you constantly active in the community and trying to make sure that government doesn't overreach, it's going to continue.
This is the only real country that has a document, our constitution, that limits the power of the government, not the people. Mm-hmm. Right? And people forget about that. We don't have anything that limits us. We have a document that limits the rights of government. But somehow we've had this flipped script on us that we're electing leaders and we're electing these kings and queens and dictators and saviors. That's not what's happening. We're supposed to be representing or electing representatives that do our bidding. These are not people that are supposed to be telling us what to do.
Yeah, exactly.
These are community members. We're partners in this. I'm not looking to them to tell me what to do.
They're supposed to serve us.
They're supposed to serve us in a servant leadership role. Yeah. Yes, they need to have the leadership qualities, but this is not something I'm handing over my family's future to.
Yep.
And I don't think anybody should.
Yep.
And there's an element, of course, we have to have community service and community support, and that's why we pay our taxes to get roads and services and schools and whatnot. But it ends there.
Yep.
Right? And that's when the individuals need to step up and the communities need to step up.
I love that.
I really like what you said about treating the school system as a co-educator, not a co-parent.
Absolutely.
And we were just at an Ironworks, a men's Bible study at church just a couple weeks ago. They call it Ironworks, and it's led by Brett Metter.
Yes.
And 1,800 men show up to this event.
Wow.
And encouraged to take lead and take charge to be that provider, not only financially, but educationally, to be there to support, to educate, to discipline. And I think part of that is lost.
Absolutely.
I mean, when we hand it over, you're talking about Sunday school, to where Sunday school is not there to be the only source of kids' ability to learn about God. And then sending kids to school does not take away your responsibility of raising and parenting. And that's a really good thing that you pointed out is co-educators.
Yeah. That's right. That's it.
And
it ends there.
And that's a solid line.
Great announcement today.
Absolutely. For those of you that stuck around,
yes.
Awesome. So quick announcement here is that I am running for city council in Happy Valley.
That's awesome.
I've been living in Happy Valley since 2006. And huge Russian community there.
Yes.
Very strong Russian community. Yeah. And not just Russian alone, Slavic origin, Eastern European. And I think we got to have a voice in the city. Mm-hmm. And I hope I get your guys' support.
Yeah. Well, I've been waiting for this announcement for about a year now.
For about a year. So. We've been debating. We've been outweighing a lot that's been going on. And we think it's definitely time.
Yeah. I was very excited to hear you talk about it originally, so I was just really excited to hear finally you're making that step. And like I told you, I'm here to help you in any way I can. That's also a call to the community. If you're watching and you want to see our people represent our communities, we need to step up and reach out to us, reach out to Bill, and say, hey, how can I help? How can I help? That means financially, that means physically, and going out and helping, knocking doors. And it's a lot of fun. Once you get to it, it's a lot of fun. And what I like to say is, once you actually get involved and start being active, you actually start having hope, because you see a lot of good people raising up and actually doing good words. So it just takes, for those folks who don't have hope in this country or in this state, it just takes a little bit of effort to start seeing the hope. And that just means just getting more active, more involved.
Yeah, and just to kind of...
You got my vote.
Reiterate, Lori DeReamer has been definitely a very influential person. Yeah. And she pointed out a couple of things that are actually very obvious, but I haven't seen. She says, you're already involved in the community.
That's right.
You know, you're a local business. You know, in my particular case, we develop and build homes. And we're involved, you know. We see each other at the 4th of July parades all the time. We actually did the Christmas parade this last year. Awesome. I don't know if we got, I don't know, maybe a dozen cars decorated. I had that inflatable Santa in the back. But we're already part of the community. You know, we're there hosting events, and we are drawing people together. And, you know, it's just another step.
Yeah. That's great. Congratulations. And the city needs you. So I hope it goes well. I'm here to help.
Thank you.
I'm going to have you on probably in the next few weeks after the primaries where you'll share more of your story.
Yeah.
Share more of why you decided. So stick around for those programs. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe to not miss that episode and all the other future episodes. And it just helps us quite a bit just to reach more people. And I just want to thank both of you for being here. Thank you for your time. I know you guys are busy. You always have something going on. So thank you very much. I hope this conversation, you guys enjoyed it just as much as I did. And I hope the whoever's watching, they also enjoyed it. So I just want to give you guys both last words, just to kind of mention just whatever has in your heart, and just to close this off.
Go ahead, Eric.
You're the politician.
I'll have you start first because then
I want the last word.
I'm just kidding. Oh, that's fair. Okay, I'll give it to you.
Sticks,
I'll give it to you. You know, I guess if I am going to say any one thing, that if we have a little bit of gratitude, that goes a long ways. And as I look around at our community, not everything's broken. There's a lot of things that are going amazingly well. There's a lot of amazing things that are actually happening. If we turn off the news, if we set down our phones, if we look around, we go to the parks, people are playing and smiling happy. We go to the stores and people are smiling at each other and saying hi and nice to see you. Go to the local pubs and same thing. So, you know, the fear message has just got to be set aside a little bit, set down our phones and turn off our TVs and get in your communities and smile and have a good time. Yeah. It's a good life.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, no, I really like that. I think that's true. Last words on my end is get out of the pickle jar.
There you go.
I mean, get out of the pickle jar. That analogy, I'm eating those pickles, and I love pickles.
Yeah.
But that's why I see my community.
It's great.
In the surrounding area here. I think we got to stand up. We got to start doing things in the community. And it's very beneficial. So a quick example. I don't know how much time we got, Dimitri.
Probably another minute.
I got on the board of directors with the Home Builders Association of Metro, and I thought, man, it's going to take up so much of my time, and do I really want to do this? You know how beneficial that was? I mean, the things that I learned just being surrounded by successful people in the industry has brought so much gain. And you know, I see the Business Alliance in Happy Valley is up and running again. Yeah. So I give Liz Hale a call, and I'm like, hey, I saw you guys had your first meet since COVID. Get me on board. Let's get this going. And I think our involvement doesn't only benefit those around us, it benefits us.
Absolutely.
And in a way, it's egoistic.
Yeah.
But
well said, sir.
That's one way of getting it done.
Yeah. Well, I know you had a really great story that you shared to the board, and which we'll save for next episode when we have you on, where you'll share the full story, hopefully, because I know I've heard it a few times and I love it every time.
Super.
So thank you. Well, once again, thank you both for being here.
Pleasure.
I really enjoyed this episode, and I hope our viewers and listeners did as well. And like I said, don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to just check out our website. Check out the work that we do, and if you have in your heart to contribute in any way, reach out to us. We'd love to bring you on as a sponsor, as a volunteer, as whatever method you want to be contribute. And we talked about hope. That's one way to seek hope and find hope, by just getting more involved.
Absolutely.
Because you start seeing the things that do work, the things that are actually going good, and that makes it worth it all along. Even if we fail, even if we don't win the elections, just that process itself is rewarding on its own.
Absolutely.
Because you get to meet great people like you guys, and get to meet just to see great things. So thank you very much. You're listening to Slavic Vote Live. Thank you very much for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next time. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in to Slavic Vote Live. I really appreciate you listening to this program. Don't forget to click that like button, subscribe, and share this program with your friends and family. We really appreciate it. Thank you very much and have a great day.
Кандидаты. Стремление. Новая программа Slavic Vote Live. Каждую неделю в прямом эфире. Slavic Vote Live дает голос славянской общине по всему.